Greetings, my fellow coin collectors. I'm Dan, the Rare Coin Man, and I'm here with another video production from rarecoins101.com. Today, I'm going to spotlight another coin from the key date list of recommendations, which you can find on rarecoins101.com, and that coin is, drumroll please, the 1881 Coronet $20 double eagle. Now, quite a few collectors call this coin type the Liberty Head double eagle, but I just refer to it as the Coronet double eagle. So before we get too far, let's clear up any confusion that might be out there. Here's a look at an 1881 double eagle. The primary device on the front side, or to be technically correct, the obverse of the coin, is the portrait of Miss Liberty. She was present on most U.S. coins struck in the 18th and 19th centuries, so it's easy to understand why many collectors call this the Liberty Head double eagle. But look what she's wearing on her head. It's a small crown called a coronet. So that's how we get the Coronet double eagle. So really the terms Liberty Head double eagle and Coronet double eagle are used interchangeably. It's just a matter of preference. You'll find the exact same situation with the Coronet quarter eagle, the half eagle, and the eagle. Okay, now that we've got the name of this coin clarified, we're ready to take a closer look at the 1881 Coronet double eagle. Why it's so rare and valuable and so highly prized by collectors. Alrighty, let's get to it. Oh, one more thing. A small crown is also known as a tiara. So this coin could have been called the Tiara double eagle. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. No siree. Don't like it at all. The year 1881 began a streak of extremely low mintages from the Philadelphia Mint for Coronet $20 double eagles, a streak that continued through 1887. Due to the very limited quantities produced initially, it's no mystery why double eagles struck at the Philadelphia Mint from 1881 to 1887 are exceptionally rare today and highly prized by collectors. And as we will see in a few minutes, these coins also display very impressive long-term value trends well above average for collectible U.S. gold coins. So first, let's compare the mintages for this group of double eagles to the rest of the Philadelphia Mint double eagles, which were issued every year from 1850 to 1907. This chart displays the mintages for each year the Coronet double eagle was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. It goes from 1850 to 1907. There was at least one Coronet double eagle struck in 1849, but that's another story for another day. Now here is the 1 million mark right here. You can see there a fair number of them had mintages of over 1 million pieces. Look what happened here starting in 1881. Mintage fell so drastically it barely even shows up on the chart. 1880 wasn't so hot either, but it had a mintage of over 50,000, but then it drops to 2,200, 2199 to be precise, in 1881, and then it tails off from there. There were several years no business strikes at all were issued. You can see 1883, 1884, and 1887, there were proof issues only. This low activity continued until 1887. In 1888, things started to pick up again, but then fell off again in 1891 and 1892, and that's another story for another day as well. So this chart clearly shows that there was a stretch of 7 years where practically no double eagles came out of the Philadelphia Mint. Okay, now that we've demonstrated the Philadelphia double eagles of 1881 through 1887 had unusually small mintages, the question now is, why did it happen this way? To answer this question, we must go back to the most cataclysmic and consequential event in American history, the Civil War of 1861 to 1865. The ramifications of that conflict extended far, including into the United States monetary system, where its impact was still being felt many years after General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse. So, let us begin our journey today by returning to the year 1861. The American Civil War, sometimes known as the War Between the States, began at 4:30 in the morning on April 12, 1861, when Southern forces opened fire at the Federal position at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. With supplies and munitions exhausted, the fort's Union defenders had no choice but to surrender 2 days later. Amazingly, there were no battle casualties on either side. As the bugles sounded, men from all walks of life in the North and South rushed to join the military. As they amassed great armies, cheered on by the civilian population, both sides were confident of victory in a brief conflict. The North and South met on the battlefield for the first time on July 21st, 1861, near the small town of Manassas Junction, Virginia, some 25 miles west-southwest of Washington, D.C. Seemingly, no one knew what to expect. Civilians in Washington, dressed in their best Sunday clothes, rode out in their carriages with picnic baskets and champagne as spectators to watch the events unfold. What happened next horrified everyone. In what became known as the First Battle of Bull Run, the South routed the Northern Army. The retreat back to Washington was a disaster, but the Confederates were too disorganized and exhausted to march on Washington. There was no more talk of a short war. Late in 1861, as fears of a long, difficult struggle took hold, the U.S. government suspended gold and silver coin payments for redemption of paper money. These types of payments are technically referred to as specie payments. This move was to protect the Treasury's precious metal reserves during wartime. They did not want to deplete their gold and silver at a time when it was needed the most. Early in 1862, the U.S. issued legal tender paper money called United States notes, supported only by the credibility of the federal government. There was no backing by gold or silver. These notes were dubbed Greenbacks because the back of the money was usually printed in green. Since Greenbacks had no tangible backing and were supported only by the soundness of the federal government, they were what is called fiat money, much like the Federal Reserve notes we use today. A total of $431 million in greenbacks were printed and distributed by 1865. During the Civil War, paper greenbacks were not trusted as much as hard money was. Their value varied with the success or failures of the North on the battlefield. A victory could increase the value of the greenbacks relative to gold, whereas a defeat might decrease their value. The value of the greenback neared its lowest point in June 1863 when General Robert E. Lee led an army of 75,000 men into Pennsylvania. The South anticipated that a victory in the Keystone State would undermine Northern morale and foster a peace settlement, ultimately leading to Confederate independence. As Lee continued his advance, many observers believed he had a reasonable chance of achieving a major victory in Northern Territory. As this was happening, fear and uncertainty drove the greenback value down to a point where it took $2.50 in greenbacks to equal $1 of gold. Another way of saying it is that a greenback dollar was worth only 40 cents compared to a gold dollar coin. This was all about to change at the crucial Battle of Gettysburg. The pivotal event of the American Civil War came when the South suffered a devastating defeat at the Battle of Gettysburg. General Lee gambled the fate of the Confederacy on a chance for victory by ordering General George Pickett to lead 15,000 of the South's best troops in a massive surge across an open field in a bid to break the center of the Union line at Cemetery Ridge. Wave after wave of Confederates charged across the field, but as they drew closer to Cemetery Ridge, Union artillery and gunfire shredded their ranks. For a moment, a few Confederate troops broke through to the top, but there were no reinforcements left to join them, and they were quickly overwhelmed by Union firepower. Pickett's charge had failed. As the guns fell silent, thousands of the Confederacy's finest lay dead on the battlefield. The best and last chance for the South to win the war ended in total disaster. On the evening of July 4th, 1863, the 87th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Lee began his somber retreat from Gettysburg during a heavy rainstorm. With skillful maneuvering, the Confederates avoided capture and slipped back into Virginia to fight another day. So, in the first week of July 1863, the winds of war turned solidly against the South, with a decisive defeat at Gettysburg and also the surrender at Vicksburg, where the Union took full control of the Mississippi River and split the Confederacy in half. From that point onward, the South was constantly plagued by food shortages, inflation, and low morale. Significant battlefield defeats in 1864 and 1865 ultimately sealed their doom. The commander of the Union Army, General Ulysses S. Grant, plowed through Virginia and captured the capital city of Richmond on April 3, 1865. In a coordinated effort, General William T. Sherman advanced northward through the Carolinas to create another front. As Richmond was about to fall, General Lee and his battered army evacuated the area in a desperate attempt to escape to North Carolina and join up with Confederate forces there. Lee never reached his destination. With Grant in hot pursuit, Lee's forces suffered mounting losses. Hopelessly outnumbered and surrounded, the Confederates came to a forced standstill in central Virginia, not far from a small town named Appomattox Courthouse. Accepting the futility of his position, on April 7th, Lee sent a message to Grant to ask for terms of peace. 2 days later, wearing his finest uniform, Lee surrendered to Grant at the farmhouse of private citizen Wilmer McLean. Upon hearing the news of Lee's surrender, Other Confederate generals, realizing the end of the Confederacy had come, laid down their arms to avoid further bloodshed. At long last, the saddest chapter in U.S. history mercifully came to an end. In all, nearly 700,000 Americans lost their lives in the Civil War. You're probably wondering how all this relates to the scarcity of the 1881 Double Eagle. Well, we're getting to that. At the conclusion of hostilities in 1865, greenbacks were not yet on par with gold, holding a value of only 78 cents for a dollar's worth of gold. As the Reconstruction era unfolded, bitter debates raged over the continued presence of the greenbacks in the U.S. economy. In 1875, Congress enacted the Specie Resumption Act, aimed at removing greenbacks from circulation. This act directed the Treasury Secretary to redeem all greenbacks in gold presented to the Treasury on or after January 1st, 1879. You heard that right. The date of redemption was almost 4 years into the future when the Resumption Act was passed. In anticipation of large-scale redemptions, the U.S. Treasury increased its gold reserves prior to 1879, primarily in the form of $20 gold double eagles. Consequently, the production of the smaller $5 half eagles and $10 eagles significantly decreased as mint resources were allocated to the production of double eagles. As 1879 approached, greenbacks unexpectedly, there's that word again, unexpectedly, achieved full parity with gold. That is, they became worth their full face value in gold. When the first day of 1879 arrived, most greenback owners did not redeem their paper money because they apparently preferred the convenience and light weight of the paper over the heavy gold coinage that backed it. Complaints flowed into the Treasury about A, the excess of double eagles. They were too large for everyday commerce. And B, the lack of smaller gold coins. In response to criticism, the Treasury reduced the output of double eagles while expanding production of the $5 and $10 gold coins. With an excess of double eagles and low demand, production at the Philadelphia Mint of the $20 coin decreased significantly starting in 1881. Now, it was a different story in the West, where new 20s were still needed, so output remained high at the San Francisco Mint. Let's go back for another look at the mintage chart we studied just a few minutes ago. The need for double eagles from the Philadelphia Mint was steady leading up to 1879, when the Treasury Department was expecting large numbers of them would be needed for redeeming greenbacks. But when it became clear the redemption rate was much lower than anticipated, production of double eagles fell to almost nothing. So low, I couldn't hardly get it to show up on this chart, for heaven's sakes. And so, 1881 marked the unmistakable beginning of what became a 7-year stretch at the Philadelphia Mint to severely limit double eagle production. Also, in accordance with the directives of the Bland-Allison Act of 1878, the Mint was very busy striking Morgan silver dollars, further reducing production capacity that might have been available for striking double eagles, even if a demand for the largest gold coin had materialized. So now we know why there were so few 1881 double eagles struck, and why they are so rare and treasured by collectors today. Let's look at a few value trend charts for the 1881, shall we? All right, so here we are at the homepage for rarecoins101.com. To get to the charts for the 1881 Double Eagle, we have to go to the what I call the key date coin list. There's a link right here on the homepage menu. So we click that, and then we go to a page called the key date coin list. So to get directly to the list and skip all this introductory material here, let's just click this link here. And it takes us down to the key date coin list, starting with the good group. And just briefly, let me explain what these are. The good group is associated with this lighter green color, and these are coins that have done much better than average for U.S. collectible coins, and they've earned a spot on the key date coin list in what I call the good group. There's also a better group, which is associated with this darker green color. It's smaller, and these coins have done even better than the good group. And then there is the best group, which has got the darkest green. It's the smallest group, and these are the coins that I have surveyed that have done the very best in terms of percentage increase over time. And then there's also the classic rarities group, which is designated by this yellow color. And these are coins that have long, glorious histories of value trend increases, but for the moment, they haven't done so great in the last few years, and they don't quite make it into one of the green groups. But you can't ignore these coins, and to be honest, there's a lot of sleeper coins in this group. So, but let's go back up here. The 1881 Double Eagle belongs to the good group, and there it is right here. And each one of these is linked to a chart. To a series of charts explaining each of these coins in detail. So let's go to the 1881. Just click that link, and here we're taken to a page dedicated to the 1881 Double Eagle. And then starts out with the history here. We talked a lot about that already, so let's just go down here to where the charts are. There's a fine picture of the coin itself. And here we see what's called the trend line average of 16.62. I'm going to explain trend lines here in just a minute, and I'll come back and talk to this in just a few minutes here. So, like I said, it belongs to the good group. And this is the value trends for the 1881 Coronet Double Eagle, and starts in 1990. And it goes to 2024. So this is 2025, and I'll be updating this chart soon. But one of the good things about this is over a 30-year period. So when I add another year to update it, it's not going to change the chart much at all because it's got such a big body of data already associated with it. So these are the value trends of the coin in very fine condition starting in 1990. And in 1990, it was estimated retail value in 1990 was $3,250, and in 2024 it's $32,500. So it's increased by tenfold since 1990. Now this trend line slope, the trend line is an indication of how well the coin is increasing over time in terms of percentage gains. Anything above 13 is really pretty darn good when you compare that to all the collectible U.S. coins. Well, this coin has got a trend line slope of 25.07. That's really good. And just to simplify, the bigger this number here, the trend line slope, the better it is. And I've also constructed these charts that the bigger the slope number is, the steeper this line is. So as you go through all these charts, you're looking for numbers here that are bigger and with a steeper line, a steeper trend line slope. So in extremely fine condition, you see the trends here, and the trend line slope isn't as good, but still very good. Then you've got about uncirculated and the MS60. So it's funny that in the top grades that I've charted, the trend lines aren't quite as good, but they're still. When you look at the overall average, which is what this is, it takes the average of the four conditions that are charted and puts them what's called the trend line average, It's 16.62 in this case. And this number right here determines if it makes into a key date list, a recommendation group, or not. So in this case, 16.62 put it in the good category. And that's really, I mean, like I said, anything above 13 is really good. So here we're at 16.62. So that's how it got qualified into the good group. And just for your information, there's also a chart that has the grades charted out. And then I find this one here to be very interesting. This is the value trends for the coin from 1950 to 1990. Many years ago, I borrowed a lot of resources from the library of the American Numismatic Association, and I charted, I made value trends for the coins going back all the way to 1950. So for this particular coin, you can see that in 1950, you could actually get one of these in very fine condition for $65. So even back in 1950, $65 wasn't a tremendous sum. And as the years go by, you can see how it increased. It increased steadily, but it didn't always increase. So like from 1970, 1980 here to 1985, some of the conditions fell in value. So even a great coin like the 1881 Double Eagle is not immune from having setbacks. So the chart here ends in 1990, which is where this one picks up. So anyways, that explains the value trends for the 1881 Double Eagle. They're very, very good compared to common date coins. And that's how we get the trend line average. And that pretty much explains the charts. So I know you've all been waiting to see the charts. I've been putting you through quite a bit of history and so forth, but the bottom line is the charts for the 1881 Double Eagle are very impressive, and you can bet your bottom dollar that as time goes on, you're going to continue to see a very good long-term performance from this coin based on what we've seen in the past. I have to add this. The 1881 Double Eagle is not the only coin within the low mintage stretch of Double Eagles from 1881 to 1887 that displays a remarkable value trend record. After analyzing all the historical pricing data, it is evident that the 1886 Double Eagle scored even better than the 1881 and also has been included in the key date list of recommendations. The other Double Eagles in that group are also popular with collectors and have a good pricing history, but didn't quite have the percentage gains to qualify for the key date list of recommendations. They came close, and I'm keeping an eye on them. It would not be surprising if at some point after a renewed price surge, a few more of them got bumped up into the list of recommendations. Now, if you're lucky enough to be the proud owner of, say, an 1882 Double Eagle or an 1885, congratulations! You've got a coin there of exceptional value and future potential based on solid numismatic fundamentals. In review, in 1881, there was practically no demand for Double Eagles from the Philadelphia Mint, a circumstance arising in the aftermath of the American Civil War. And so, not many Double Eagles were struck in 1881 and for several more years beyond that because nobody needed or wanted them. Today, the 1881 Coronet Double Eagle is considered a significant rarity across all grades. Due to its limited availability, it's understandable that seasoned collectors engage in fierce competition whenever an example becomes available in the market. Not bad for a coin once upon a time, long ago, nobody wanted. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate your time. If you got something out of this video and thought it was worthwhile, please do me a small favor and click the like button. I think I must be doing something right with these videos because a relatively high percentage of viewers do click the like button, and I'm happy to say virtually no one has clicked the dislike button, so that's a good thing. And many viewers are also hitting the subscribe button. That really does help me to stay motivated. In a few weeks, I'll be posting another video. You can count on that. Okay, until next time, this is Dan the Rare Coin Man signing off. Happy collecting!